Hello everyone, Dr. Brian from Genesis Chiropractic Software, going over some of the most important things when it comes to billing and just big misconceptions that are out there when it comes to other technologies and how they really affect your bottom line, your ability to scale your business, your control over your business. So I'm going to go over a few things here that I think are the most important that you understand when it regards to comparing solutions here. One is the four necessities that you should be looking for when it comes to technology or a service. So flexibility is number one. Flexibility meaning that whether you want to keep things in-house or you want to outsource with Genesis or any other system, it's really important that the technology and the overall methodology gives you the ability to be flexible. You may have a great biller in your office today. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So making a decision about technology that gives you the options in the future to do whatever you need to do is really important. With Genesis, we're going to go over how we maintain that flexibility for you, but also help you really optimize your bottom line. Management control, being able to quickly assess whether or not your billing department in-house or if you're billing team, if you're outsourcing. And as you know, Genesis does both. You can keep things in-house or outsource or move back and forth. But being able to manage and keep control. So if you're outsourcing, knowing that everything's happening properly, or if you're keeping things in-house without having to have look at a lot of reports and have lots of meetings with your biller to know things are happening quickly and easily. Accountability. Again, that goes into management control, but accountability goes a little bit further, making sure you can actually drill down into the work that people are doing and see what they did. Full audit trails on every claim, for example, allowing you to keep the accountability, again, outsourced or in-house with the team that you're working with in either case. Transparency, again, outsourcing. It's one of the traditional problem with outsourcing is that you never know what they're doing. You don't know if they're submitting claims. You don't know if they're following up on claims. Are they following up on all the claims or just the big claims? So being able to have that transparency is one of the key factors in being able to, with any solution you're going with, know that it's the right decision. You made the right decision. So the four necessities: flexibility, management control, accountability, and transparency. Then we're going to talk about the three management musts. So technology should help you manage your practice. And there's lots of softwares that call themselves practice management softwares. I think you'll see in a few minutes here how they actually don't help you manage a business. They help you do certain things. Maybe they help you do certain things more efficiently with certain features and functionalities. Those are great, but that does not necessarily mean they actually help you manage your business, and I'll go into that in just a few seconds here. So the three rules of actually managing anything, whether it's a business or one specific process in a business or in life, really, is number one is you have to quantify the work. So if we're talking about billing, how many claims need to be followed up on today? Number two is delegating, making sure that work gets to the right person or they know what they're responsible for. And number three, the most commonly missed step in management is verifying that the work is done. And that really comes because it's very difficult in most technologies, not Genesis, to quantify how much work was supposed to happen today. Delegating, that a lot of times is, hey, you're the biller, so it's now your job. But we're going to talk about how with automation we can actually enhance the delegation of billing processes, specifically in this case. And then verifying, if you can do number one, and number two, verifying should be very easy. So we're going to talk about how technology simplifies that, especially with Genesis. 3 technology requirements. Number one, automation to get all of this done. Keep the flexibility, management control, accountability, and transparency. And the 3 management musts: to quantify, delegate, and verify. You need automation. You need a network effect, which I will explain. And you need constant improvement. So the automation, the level of technology that with Genesis is really an enterprise level technology. Practice management systems, quote unquote, out there are really just, smaller pieces of software that are built a lot of times with very pretty features and integrations and things like that, but really they don't help you manage your business. So we're going to go over why that is right now. All right, so there's two types of systems in the big scheme of things. You got your ChiroTouch Platinum, ChiroFusions type systems. So even though some of the newer systems out there in the cloud, they're really built incorrectly. They're really built, I mean, they get certain functionality, but when we're talking about those things we just spoke about, the management must and the necessities for technology, they really don't give you the level of support that you really need to manage your business effectively. And when I say that's most important, because what the most important thing to you is yes, making all the money that you should be making. Yes, staying compliant. Obviously, retaining patients that you have in your office. But all that should happen with an optimization of your free time. And when you don't have a system that helps you manage these things, a lot of times you're chasing your tail, managing by fire, putting out fires, and it really hampers your ability to focus on what you do best, which is taking care of patients and also helping more people. So freeing up your time to just focus on patient care and helping more people in your community. So these types of systems, which I call report-based systems, really fall short, and I'll explain here. So every system has reports. Even Genesis has reports. There's nothing wrong with reports inherently, except that they're retrospective. Reports show you what happened or didn't happen after the fact. So every system has, create new patient care plans, or should have a report that shows you who you need to create care plans for, of no-shows, patients without future appointments, that's no future appointments, that's NFA. Expired care plans, patients who have expired care plans. Claims that need follow-up, a lot of times there's not a report for that in other systems. And what you are winding up looking at in that case is aging reports and looking for claims based on their age and following up on them. Declined credit cards when it comes to billing and follow-up and account balance, patient balances. Having a credit card that's on file that is declined is important, but still, if it's buried in a report, there are some inherent problems with that. Inventory that needs to be replenished, benefits that need to be verified that might not have been yet, report of findings. In other words, report of findings that need to be done with patients, extra reports that need to be completed for patients, claims that need to be submitted that warrant. With a lot of systems, you're talking about clearinghouses and things like that, as opposed to with Genesis, which we automate that process. But notes that are not signed off on. Billing, even though that's not necessarily going to get you a claim out the door, if you don't have notes that are done extemporaneously and done properly in a compliant way that match your codes and that support the codes that you just billed, and they're not signed off, that could wind up costing you money in the billing process in the future. EOBs that need posting, again, completely automated with Genesis, but at least a report that shows you that the claims need to be posted to a system. These are all different reports, and they're good to have, kind of nice to have things. And so when you're doing demos, you're looking at other systems and you're getting demonstrations of lots of reports. Very good. Problem with these things. Okay, here's the problem. So you have office manager, you have CAs, you have the financial CA/biller, you have your associate doctor, you have the owner of the practice. And so what happens is, in the reality of a practice, all of these people are going to these reports to find work that they're supposed to do today. So if we're talking about a financial /biller, what they have to do is go to aging reports, find the claims that need to be followed up on, and then follow up on those claims. Or they have to go and take the EOBs and post them to the system, or even if you're getting electronic EOBs, they still have to make sure that they're posted correctly. And then they have to find the claims that need to be followed up on. And maybe the doctor has to go to report to find the notes that they're supposed to do and the x-ray reports, and maybe the CA is the person that does the verification of benefits, so they have to go to report of all the new patients. So what they're doing is they're going to reports to find work. And a lot of times they miss work, right? So for example, a biller will go to aging reports, but what they'll miss a lot of times, because it's not automated, is they'll miss an underpayment. So an insurance company allows you $40 for an adjustment today, but last month they allowed you $45 for the same insurance company for the same code. Now it's underpaid, but it is paid, so it doesn't look like a denial, so that biller misses that $5 that you should have been paid. So with Genesis, we automate the process of posting the EOBs. We automate the process of finding the claims that need to be followed up on. Jumping ahead a little bit. So what this does, though, it wastes everybody's time. There's no reason why in today's day and age anybody should be going to any report to look for work. And when you are doing that, it takes focus. So as you're following up on claims, for example, now you have to go look for the next claim. So that's a waste of time, but it's also a change in the type of thought process that you're using. Rather than just being on the phone and following up, now you have to change the type of work you're doing and go follow up. You're also doing other things in a billing process, which has many steps. So from posting claims to posting EOBs to following up to looking at patient balances to balance billing patients, these are all very specialized jobs. And to have one person that can do all of those things in addition to finding underpayments is really a lack of focus. So everything suffers because of that. Every piece of the process suffers because of that. So here's the underlying problem. We talked about control, we talked about quantifying work, we talked about delegating work, and we talked about verifying work. You're the doctor/owner, but you're also you're the doctor seeing patients, but you're also the owner of a business. So the analogy I use a lot of times is you're the conductor of an orchestra, but you're also the violin player. And it's very difficult even to just do those two things at the same time because you're super busy seeing patients, getting new patients, marketing, managing other people, and then you just have to try to manage an actual business. And like we said, the 3 rules of managing a business is quantify work, delegate work, and then verify. So if you look at this picture, how much work had to be done by the biller, for example, for today? How many claims needed attention? How many claims needed to be followed up on? How many claims needed to be corrected? So it becomes very difficult for you over time if you're in-house or outsourcing with other companies especially. How do you know how much work was supposed to happen for your practice that day to make sure you're paid every single penny that you deserve as fast as possible? It becomes very difficult. So you don't know across, and this doesn't just pertain to billing, but we're talking about billing right now, but it applies to patient retention. It applies to your compliance. You don't really know what any of your staff was supposed to do, how many things were due today for all your processes across your entire business. And so it leaves you in the dark and you manage by fire. So what do I mean by that? When we're talking about billing, you look at your collections and they're down, they're up, they're down. So you don't know why that is. Are they up this month because you got a big check from something you submitted, 4 months ago? Are they down because you're not submitting claims? Are they down because your patient volume's down? What is it? And so you manage by fire. So you go to the biller. Now, you feel like your bank account's a little low. You go to the biller and now you have to have meetings. You have to drill into reports. You have to try to find out are claims being submitted. And then you find a problem, typically. Something that should have been automated and done automatically. Now you find out wasn't happening and you manage your biller by fire. Hey, we need to correct this. Let's train on this. You train on that. It works great for the next month or so until you have another fire. And it's a different problem because the fire of 2 months ago now took the focus of the biller and they dropped the ball on something else. And that, again, that applies for your entire practice. It's not just billing, it's also patient retention. Could be no-shows that stopped getting followed up on. Could be re-signed care plans that weren't presented on time or in a timely manner. It could be notes that weren't signed off by your associate doctor. It could be a million different things. You only find them because you went and looked at a report or something came to your attention. Worst case is a patient retention issue like no-shows or care plans where you remember a patient that you haven't seen in a while and all of a sudden you go to the office and you look at the patient's file and that patient is no longer with you because somebody dropped the ball on a process and you manage by fire. You go to that person or those people in your practice that are responsible for those things and that is the way you manage. And that's the way you verify, right? Quantify, delegate, verify. That's the way you verify whether or not things are happening every single day. So it's a very destructive way to manage people. It's very difficult. It creates somewhat of an animosity. It creates staff turnover because people just want to know that they're doing their job that you want them to do. They want to feel good about it. They want to be part of your mission. But managing by fire, it doesn't feel good for the doctor either. You don't want to have to correct people all the time. So this is the problem right here that we're talking about, management by fire. It's very reactive. And as chiropractors, we're proactive about everything. Proactive about our health, and we apply those philosophies to our finances and our families and all that stuff. And yet this is the way we manage our business. And so you can see these types of systems, ironically, are built against our own philosophy. They're reactive in nature. So it doesn't make sense. And especially when there's a different way to use technology. So when we talk about Genesis, you're going to see there's a paradigm shift in the way technology is used to manage your business. And we're talking about billing specifically, so I'll go into that in a little bit more depth with billing, but really it's across your entire practice. Okay, so let's talk about this, a new type of technology, a paradigm shift, and how technology is used to manage a business or processes within a business. Again, we're talking about billing. So Genesis, it sits in the cloud. So that's rule number one. But there's other systems that are in the cloud, right? The difference is not just that it's in the cloud. The difference is that there's also artificial intelligence built into that system, and what we call the network effect, which I said we would talk about in a minute. So Genesis has currently 20 million rules built into it. 20 million things that Genesis knows currently in its intelligence. If this, then do that. If that, then do this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to billing, for example, we talked about the necessities, right? The things that technology should have. And one is automation. So first of all, the entire process for billing is automated. Claim submission, you're done with a patient, it's automatically real-time submitted to insurance company, and it matches your notes. So it'll tell you if your notes don't support what you're coding, right? So it's going to tell you, so your documentation drives your note, drives your claim, and you can do that in under 10 seconds, in some cases less. Right, so it drives out the claim in real time, so the insurance company, we verify, Genesis actually smart enough to verify that insurance companies received the claim, and then it knows when insurance companies haven't paid you either in the right amount of time, or if they've underpaid on a claim, or obviously if they denied a claim. It knows exactly when those things happen. It'll also, built into those rules, know what claims won't get paid for whatever reason, forgetting modifiers, diagnosis linking. So that'll bounce it right back to your office, actually warn you before you even submit the claim, to not even submit the claim until you correct those things. So these rules, or what we call artificial intelligence, Genesis knows and it learns. So it has to improve over time. Improving over time using real data from thousands of users across the country. So as we learn things about one doctor's claims in one state, now we build in more rules, and that applies to everybody on the network. That's called the network effect. So first of all, the automation to identify the work that needs to happen. And we're talking about specifically billing here. Okay, so first of all, it needs to recognize, it needs to quantify the work that needs to happen. So Genesis is smart enough, again, to go find that work. Then Genesis takes that work, and rather than leaving it in reports and wasting everybody's time having to go look through reports for work, now it sends if it's insurance claims, we're talking about the biller right there with the number 7. Let's say it needs 7 claims that need attention today. It's going to actually send the claims to the biller on their one screen that they have to go to every day. It's called their workbench. So everybody has a workbench. Genesis sends those claims to the biller, and now the biller knows I have 7 claims to follow up on today without having to go to all the aging reports. Aging reports are nice, retrospectively, right? But if you know that they followed up on every claim they were supposed to every single day, and your collections are slightly up or down, there's another issue. It's just either patient retention, or now if your front desk is managing patient retention because of this properly, then you know that you're following up on everything across your entire practice to make sure everything is done properly. Reports are nice. They're just impossible for you to manage a business with them, leaving you managing by fire. So let's say we have 55 things across everybody to manage patient retention, to manage compliance, to manage your billing and your financials. And now you know that there's 55 things, for example, just arbitrary numbers, that have to happen for your practice across everybody. So this completely simplifies the 3 rules of management, right? We quantify the work automatically because Genesis is smart and it learns, and it can even be customized so that certain types of visits and things that happen in your specific office will generate tasks to specific people in your office for new patients, for example, or re-signs. So now Genesis is smart enough to delegate the tasks to the right people at the right time in real time. And now you have one number, not dozens of reports that you don't have time to look at because you have your own job to do. In this case, 55 things for this practice have to happen by the end of the day. So this completely simplifies how you actually manage. So if that's 0 by the end of the day, there's no questions asked, right? It's super easy for you to look at one number and know that everything was done. So now the fire goes away, that you don't manage by fire. I mean, if one person in your office is not able to finish their tasks, it's still not management by fire, because now you can go to that person and have a intelligent business conversation at the time something goes wrong. It's not 5 months later where you're losing patients or your collections are down. It's real time. You can go to your office manager and say, hey, noticed you have a backlog. How can I help you? What's the issue? And here's some typical, very common issues. One is that person, they may have 15 things left at the end of the day, but they did 70 things. So there's way too many of those things for one person. So now you have a capacity issue. Another situation is they are new in your office and they need training on that thing. So now you can train them directly in alignment with being proactive about managing your business. Another situation is they hate doing that thing. Very common. You hire somebody and just stick them in a position where you need them, but they're not best suited for that. So sometimes it makes sense to put that person in it. They're great for every other reason. They fit the profile, they're on mission, and sometimes they're better in a different position in your office. Whatever the case may be, now you're proactively managing without having to yell and be upset and have them be scared or anything like that. They know it's a team environment. And it also, these numbers are transparent. We spoke a little bit about transparency. Well, this is just a sample little screen that we have in Genesis where it shows you the number of tasks across everybody for each person on the left-hand side of the screen. And if anybody had any tasks left at the end of the day, everybody would see it. And they can help each other. And they can see that coming before the end of the day. Sometimes people were cross-trained on different tasks and go help another person out. When you click on each person's name here, by the way, you see the tasks that they have. So you can keep track of this in real time, and it fosters a real teamwork environment. So this is a much more proactive way to manage a business than obviously we talked about previously with other types of systems being reactive. And I think, as you should be able to see here, is that this is a real business management tool. This is the way higher level, enterprise level organizations are run. So when you're optimizing your patient retention and your compliance and your revenue from billing and patient balances and even cash patients, and your management time is so much less, you're freed up and your staff is freed up. You're not wasting time going to reports. You and your staff are freed up to see more patients, to scale your business, adding people when your capacity is over its limit. And Genesis learns over time. Right now, 20 million rules. It wasn't always 20 million rules, but that is the network effect. It learns based on users' actual input. It learns how to help you manage better. So this is much more proactive methodology than with other report-based systems, which is every other system on the market. And what we call this methodology is single point management. Rather than a report management system. Single point meaning there's one number rather than dozens of reports. You can always look at the reports, and I'll talk a little bit about reports here in a minute and how they're so useful, especially when it comes to transparency. But every single day, what you need to do to manage a business, this is the right way to go. Make sure that you know all the work happened. You can always go back and look at the quality of the work. Make sure that the quantity of the work is actually identified, delegated, and verified as completed is the first step in management. Okay, let's talk about some of those reports we spoke about and the fundamental shift in how reports are used in Genesis. First of all, we want to have goals. And I won't go into too much detail. It could be beyond this video. But you can set any number of parameters across your practice, no-shows, billing, tasks that are not completed, no-shows, and set goals. And Genesis will show you where you are relative to those goals. So are you above the goal, beyond the goal, and based on your time frame too. Are you on track for meeting that goal? And you could have set the time frame for this month, this year, this quarter. And then you have certain billing reports and some dashboards and things like that that you can real simply see where you are for your practice. And this is a demo account, so don't mind the numbers for this practice, but it's just a demo account. And then with these, you can also open these reports and look at the tracking by month, by week, by day. So there's a lot of functionality there. That's real nice. Let's talk about some billing though. This is a billing video. So what's most important when it comes to billing is having fast access, control. We talked about control, we talked about transparency, we talked about automation, right? So most billing systems / reports, you can see on the top right hand side of the screen here, most systems are going to give you reports. This is going to show you how much money you've collected this month so far. That's actual insurance collections up to date. This is going to show you how much is outstanding in your total outstanding accounts receivable. I'll come back to these numbers in a second. They're probably the most important numbers, but I just want to continue on with the billing statistics. I call this the billing vital statistics. Like, this is the actual vitals of your billing. You don't have to go to dozens of reports. I'll show you some reports in a minute that are real powerful, but this is really the most important stuff. Okay, so this first number is how much of your total accounts receivable. Your total accounts receivable in this case is $16,000. This is how much of it is older than 30 days. So this is how much of it is older than 60 days, and this is older than 120 days. Very important. By the way, you can always toggle this and turn this off so other people can't see it while you're in the system. But now this takes the accounts receivable that's older than 30 days and divides it by the total amount of accounts receivable, which is 72%. So that means 72% of your accounts receivable is older than 30 days. This means 4% of your accounts receivable is over than 60 days, and this means 0% of your AR is older than 120 days. And this excludes personal injury, because we know that's always going to skew the AR over 120. But what's really important here is that you know that accounts receivable over 120 is the number one way insurance companies to compare themselves to other insurance companies on the market. And so why that is because 17.7% of all aging accounts receivable across all specialties, not just chiropractic, 17.7% of accounts receivable goes over 120 days. Why is that important? Because once accounts receivable go over 120 days, the chances of actually collecting that money go down to almost zero. So in other words, if it's lost money. So anything goes over 120 days, your chances of getting it are almost zero. So with now that national average 17.7, Genesis average 7%. So that means our doctors on average collect 10% more than than doctors across the country. Now that's an average. We have many doctors that are just like this, many that are at 0%. Okay, so that means those doctors are collecting 17.7% more money than average doctors across the country. So, and why that is, because we talked about the automation and the real control and the real transparency that they have, whether they're outsourcing it or not. Okay, so the important numbers here. Okay, so first number, this is the number of active tickets or tasks that we call it in the system. Now those are tasks unrelated to billing. These are things outside of billing like patient retention and all the other tasks going into your practice for the day. This second number here, 536, active claims, failed. A failed claim in our world means that it was underpaid, it was denied, it was submitted incorrectly before, so it didn't go out to insurance companies. This is the number of tasks, and this is an extremely high number because it's a demo account, so keep that in mind. But that's the amount of work. So if you're managing your business, that's how much work has to happen for your insurance claims today. Now, we talked about transparency and keeping control. If you're outsourcing to Genesis, for example, you see that number, you know exactly how many claims need to be followed up on for your practice. I'll try to go into in a minute here, actually clicking into that number and seeing the claims that need to be followed up on by your billing department. And then that could be outsourced or it could be in-house. And what that does is it allows you to keep control, but it also gives you the flexibility. If, God forbid, your biller, something happens where they need to leave your practice, you're not held hostage anymore. You can outsource it to Genesis. We can pick up the slack for you. Maybe you hire another biller. Maybe you keep it outsourced. It's a business decision. Another situation that we see frequently is sometimes a biller doesn't know how much work they're actually missing, and when they implement Genesis, they find a lot of work. So sometimes they have to hire another person to actually make all the money that they should be making. Okay, so that's the number of active claims today. So this is work that needs to be done today. The second number is the stuff that needs to be done today and in the future. So what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes your biller follows up on a task or a claim today, I should say, and then they do something with the insurance company. They have to resubmit something and they want to follow up on it, a week or two from now. So that's why they're able to change the date, their follow-up date, to something in the future. And that's why there's more claims in the total, because it combines what's due today and what's due in the future. All right, so this is your total claims. You do want to keep an eye on that today, because this you obviously want to be zero by the end of the day. This one you want to keep an eye that it's not growing out of control. It should stay pretty steady. And that's, again, if you're outsourcing or in-house. But so first number that's most important actually is the AR over 120, to know that you're keeping up to par with at least Genesis. Not necessarily other billing companies, but at least with Genesis. And then these numbers come in on a day-to-day basis. Are they doing all the work? I can drill into that. I can see what they're supposed to do. I can see what they said to insurance companies. And are we growing out of control? Is the amount of work they need to do growing out of control? So this is the most important thing, and these are the things you see as soon as you log into Genesis. So real-time access to real data that actually matters. Okay, another important report, billing stats. These are real important. There's not much to see as far as data goes in the system. I'm going to just change the date range here. So I can look at this report. So billing stats, and this is on the bottom of the screen. You can see I'm looking at it by CPT code and payer, and you can see how I can look at it by a whole bunch of different possibilities, month of service and all kinds of things. I'll show you a couple of them, and you can even create some custom configurations for this. But right now we're looking at it for this date range only, from 12/12 to 12/12. Well, that's not going to help anybody. So let me go back. Let's see if I go back like 2 months and see how that does for us. Okay, now we have more data. All right, so this is way more information than I had a second ago, right? So now I can see I have all my CPT code and payer combinations. Well, let's say I want to know which insurance company is paying me the worst for a certain code. So let me look at filter down, 989 codes. All right, now I have only my 989 codes. I can sort the 989 codes by 98940, CPT, payer combinations. But let's say I want to get a little bit more specific and say 98942. All right, now I got all my combinations of CPT 9942 per payer. And now I want to see who's paying me the worst. So I can sort by the balance on the right-hand side of the screen and see that Blue Cross Blue Shield has the biggest balance. And how else? Percent paid I can look at, other adjustments. Again, this is sample data, so it's not going to be as real-life example as possible, but most important thing is I can look at this now and I could say, okay, they pay me the worst. Let's see why they have $270 in balance still. Now it's going to bring me the claims that make up that balance. And I could see that these claims, it looks like the same patient. So I'm going to click on the on a claim, I'm sorry. Now I can see the actual claim and the log for that claim. So everything that ever happened on this claim, including sometimes what you would see in real life is if a certain person in your office, which is you see their name over here, the date and time, and what they did. So in this case, this person changed the financial class from one to the other, right? So, but you also would see the notes of what they said to the insurance company and so on, and the full audit trail of everything, that all the automation that happened by the system and all the things that happened by people in your office. If you're outsourcing, by the follow-up team that you're outsourcing to with Genesis, you'd see everything that happens on every single claim. So you have full transparency and control, even though you're outsourcing. And if you have it in-house, this gives you more control than you have guaranteed right now. All right, so this is just one example of a report. Let's look at it a different way. Another report people really tend to love. It's actually one of my favorites. All right, this is called month of service, and I'm going to go back a few months here. So let me do August first. So we have a few months to look at. All right, so now we have a few months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months of data to look at. I changed the date range. I'm looking at it by month of service. So here's the problem this solves. The problem is you collect some money this month, and it's higher, and last month it was lower, and it's up and down, it's up and down. You don't really know why that is. Sometimes it's because you collected a big check this month from something you billed out a year ago. So here's what this report does. First thing I'm going to do is just sort it by the month. So for example, August of 2017. What this shows me is how the claims I actually billed out during that time period of August. All the claims I actually billed out for August were made up $51,000-ish. I can see, though, in November I billed out $89,000. That's interesting. So I can see what I bill out is up and down and up and down. Then I can look at the number of visits, see my visits are up and down. But then we get into the most important stuff is, well, what was paid based on what I billed in that month so far? And you can drill into this number and look at the payments. But maybe the most important thing is not what I've been paid so far, because I know I'm following up on everything, right? Now I want to know why I have such a big balance. Well, I have a bigger balance for October, but I also billed out almost $100,000. So maybe that's okay. But now you don't have to constantly manage by fire based on collections being up and down and wondering why your bank account is up and down. Now you can actually look based on the month of service, when the claim was actually created, why there's a balance. And of course, you can drill into any one of these balances again and now look at what your billing team or your billing staff has done or has not done. So now you can see what was paid, and now you see the balances right on the right-hand side. That's not the balance, that's the adjustment. Balances are on the right here. You can sort by balance. So I can see this one's a $300 and some odd dollar claim. You can see what the physician was. If you have multiple physicians, you can see the patients. You can even start to filter and sort in here. So if you want to know if, let's say, only one of your associates was doing, this is only Bob Jones and this is only Sarah. So now I can see Sarah's claims. I can drill into the balance, look at the claim, see everything that happened on it. Are they following up? What's been said to the insurance company, etc., etc., etc. Full audit trail. So now what you really have is real-time data, lots of control, real transparency, and now you're really on top of being proactive about your billing collections. Most importantly, again, is making sure that that number is 0 every single day. That's how you're proactive about it. Finding a problem here after it's been a problem for months is really the effect. The cause is not following up on everything every single day. This is proactive. This is more in line with our own principles, vitalistic principles. So those are just 2 really great reports. And why this all works is everything is automated. From claim submission, matching your notes and making sure you don't submit claims incorrectly, to verifying that insurance companies have received the claim, to automating EOB posting, to automating the identification of claims that need to be followed up and quantifying them in one number, to delegating them on one screen where we go to the claims that need to be addressed by the office as opposed to the follow-up team. So a lot of times You have a follow-up team in your own office. You have an in-house biller that does follow-up. And then sometimes you submit a claim or you need more information about that claim. So you send it back to somebody at the front desk to enter. Maybe they forgot the birth date or something like that. So that'll go bounce right back. So making sure that all that work is done every single day means you collect every penny from the insurance company that you deserve. Okay, so that's the overview, big picture overview of what makes Genesis completely unique and different, a fundamental paradigm shift in how technology is being used to optimize your revenue through billing and your compliance in some cases, as you could see with the notes, and how this really gives you the flexibility, the management control, the accountability, the transparency, whether or not you want to outsource or keep things in-house. Genesis is a fundamental shift in how technology is used. Hope this was helpful.